Hello. What we're going to be going through today is a realization I've had as a product manager and how it links to life, like how it can improve your life. It's a classroom kind of session, very, very informal, not scripted. There's no script here. I'm just going to take you through some thinking I've had. Because a bit of background about myself, I've been in product management for 6 or 7 years now. Product management, by the way, is the way in which we create apps and we create websites. You probably use a ton of them, like Netflix, Amazon. Those are products, and we have a bunch of different techniques that I've been using, and many other product managers use on a day-to-day basis. But in reality, I realized that those techniques are helpful for your life as well. So I want to try and bring that with this channel, hence Product Pappy. I think it's kind of a unique perspective on life. Like there seem to be very, very particular kind of techniques for improving life. And I think that product management techniques can be applied to life to help life. And so, what I'm going to take us through today is a mind map, some thinking. And the first thing I would say is that these problems here are typical problems that we will have as humans, right? And I hear it a lot from friends, family. I even have these problems myself sometimes. You might do as well, right? So sometimes you're going to lack direction. You're going to struggle to find out who you are. So your identity, you're going to struggle maybe with relationships, your network. Everyone wants to be more likable, typical sort of stuff, right? And nowadays there's this big push to improve, right? Continuously improve. A lot of people have a problem with focusing as well. And the first kind of main realization is when I was in, or when I'm in product, the products have these problems as well. So apps and websites, when you're working on it on day by day, you are actually having these problems as well for your products. So your product can lack direction, can lack an identity, it can lack a network, a market of people to get your app out to. You want to make it more likable, maybe you want to make it more likable. Maybe you are struggling to get a focus for the product as well. And so really there's definitely a lot of crossover here because these techniques work in a product setting. And I unconsciously try these as well in my life, and they have helped a ton, which I'll go through in other times. But I guess we can just run through each problem and at a high level just say, I guess, the most effective technique, in my opinion, to solve that problem. And that problem can potentially solve your life problem, right? So let's try first lacking direction. So lacking direction, that's a very, very, very common problem. Product setting or life setting roadmap. Like that's typically an example, sorry, of how a roadmap could look, with a definition as well on the right hand side. So a roadmap is going to be basically a timeline that spans across different number of years. And on the roadmap, you're going to map out what's happening across the year, what are some of the key milestones, effectively how you're going to get there. Um, is actually like really helpful, really, really, really helpful. If you think about it, what are you going to do this year? Actually get it down on paper and you can map it out your life for the year and the next 2 years and 3 years, especially. Really, really, really helps you understand, especially also how much you're committing to, and a good way for you to keep yourself accountable. So that's definitely one of the first things as well. I can dive into this future, like dedicated roadmap session as well for life as well. The next one, how do I find my identity? So that's a very, very, very deep one, but one that we all question, or most of us question, right? We're always trying to find out what makes us special, right? And the one that works in a product setting, and I have thought about it in a life setting as well is value proposition. So value proposition is actually the unique thing that keeps you going to wherever you're going, whether it's Walmart, whether it's for us in the UK, it's Sainsbury's, Amazon, Netflix. It's the unique traits, it's the unique offering that an organization, product, whatever it is, gives to a customer. It's the reason why, it's their customer promise essentially. The unique reason why a customer keeps coming back to a business. If you can try and figure out what your value proposition is, what makes you unique to other people, that can go really far in building your identity. So, value proposition definitely is one. Definitely one to think about. Solving problems, and there's tons and tons and tons of ways of doing this, but one which is quite a traditional method and comes from user centered design or user centered research or user research is double diamond approach. You might have come across it before. It's the idea of divergent thinking, to think wide and to understand and to watch and to observe problems, and then convergent thinking. So once you've got all that information, it's bringing it inwards to try and understand, try and get insights, etc. But you don't stop there. You then go out wide again once you get insights to try and understand more about those insights, and then you go in, and it's just a continuous method. Excuse the train outside. Double diamond. Other problems. So typical, like this is everywhere now. People always talking about they can't focus. So two techniques I can think of is Moscow and managing your backlog. So Moscow, for instance. So Moscow is something that I picked up in my career before being a product manager. So back when I was a business analyst, we'd have like 200, 300 requirements. And the best way to prioritize it was not only talking to people to understand each of those needs, but we would rank or we would categorize those requirements. And it really, really does work also in your life as well. If you have a to do list, do not be afraid to put a must, a should, a could, and a would. So, obviously, a must is something that if you don't do it, it's pretty bad if you don't do it. A should's got a bit more of almost, less risk if you don't do it. It's not too bad if you don't do it. And in could and would, you get the idea of it. Um, but definitely, you should have a handful of musts that you will do. And that already has gone far in reducing a huge list to now, these are the things I must do. So Moscow is definitely one that is great. It's a really, really useful prioritization technique that we use that you can definitely use in your life as well. Managing your backlog. So in a product setting, you are going to typically have your team and they're all going to have a backlog. So the backlog is going to be a list of tasks that will represent all the things, the outstanding tasks that you need to do. But that backlog can become really messy as well. And it requires maintenance. It also can benefit from being prioritized, from being organized as well. So the backlog can also be used in your own life. It technically could be a to-do list. It probably is a bit longer than a to-do list. It probably is spanned across months and months without you noticing. It's any idea you get, you chuck it in the backlog. In practical terms, it does work. I've used it myself. I know a few others as well who have used it as well. But a backlog is super, super important to a product team. Um, and I think as well, really, really effective in honing in on focusing on what you're going to do as well. Definitely, you can use a backlog in your own life as well. So, moving up to another problem. I want a larger network. I want to, I want to network more people. I want a more expansive network. That's really, really, really common as well. A really, really kind of common question as well. So one thing I do in a career setting, in product as well, even when I start off a new project, but it does help as well in your own life if you want to build a larger network. Don't be afraid to actually create a stakeholder map. It's essentially like an onion skin diagram that puts the focus, the subject in the middle. So you put yourself in the middle, and then you sort of create these kind of circles or radiuses outside of that. And what you want to do is the inside radius, limit yourself to maybe 4 or 5 people. They usually say, who are the 5 close people to you? Put those 5 people in the core. Who are those 5 people? Then the outer layer of that, think about who's a bit outside of that. I think once you understand about who's in your core, who's in the outside, etc., etc., it starts to show you your connections. And then the next kind of level to that is then thinking about, okay, this person on the outside, how do I bring them in? How do I bring her or him inwards? Who do they know? What's their stakeholder map as well? Definitely, we can explore that another time as well. But definitely a great way to build a larger network. Being more likable, that's related to building a network. How to become more likable? That's such a common problem for most of us. We all want to be likable. We all want to be loved, right? The same with product as well. How do I make my product more likable? How do I make myself more likable? The one I could think of was having a user-centered approach. And the way that works is you, instead of thinking about yourself, how do I make myself more likable? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's about thinking about the users first. So here you want to understand the needs of the people you're interacting with. What do they need? Who are they? What problems do they have? How can you help them? What do you have in common? It's all about the other person as well. As important as you are, it's about the other person as well. It's about taking that sort of user centered approach. As I say here, another one we can explore. It's so much because there is so much here. This is actually a kind of a field of thinking. Like it has many different sub branches of user centered approach, but essentially it's about putting people first. And a lot of the thinking aligns with How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, that really well known book. I'm pretty sure one of the chapters there is dedicated to, you are interested if you are interested, in other people. Um, Talking about things that are of interest to other people and yourself as well, trying to find those synergies. It's about not only about yourself, but other people, basically. Yeah. So, last one I could think of is how do I improve? And there are so many techniques I could think of. These are just the initial ones, but there's so many I could think of. All right, the first one, build, measure, learn. This is critical in product. Like, if you don't do this, then you're not doing product. The whole point is that you are meant to learn and fail fast. Like, try and fail. Actually, you're actively trying to fail, basically. And the reason being is because the earlier you get out there, the chances are you will fail, but you will learn, and that's probably the best way that you can come back again and do it. So that is probably one of the most effective ways to improve, is this cycle here that we always go about in product and we always try and implement. We build, we measure, we learn. It's very important for us in product and in your life as well. In your life, you want to try something out, experiment with it first, like try it out, see what happens, like actually measure what happens, and then learn and come back better as well. So build, measure, learn, definitely one there. Learn from data. Like a product manager or anyone in product, how do you improve? You learn from data. Like, you can get qualitative opinions, you can get opinions from people saying, oh, he's great or she's great, they're cool, they're not cool. Opinions, right? But data is fact. It is fact. It's absolutely fact. And the best ways nowadays to get data from wearable technologies, we even have it baked into our smartphones now with step counters, stats from services now. There is so much information out there that we actually probably don't use. It's all there for us to understand our performance and our trends. You can improve by inspecting the data, actually trying to understand the data, and it really does lend in as well from the top one as well about the experiments. So once you learn about the data, then you can try, okay, let me try this out. as well. So definitely taking more of a data kind of focus to your life. That's definitely a way to improve, how to continually improve retros. So retros is one that I experimented with in my personal life, like most of these, and it has legit worked, even in relationships as well. It really, really does work. So retro, just to kind of define what it is essentially in a scrum setting. So we say there's kind of agile teams that work every 2 or 3 weeks or 1 week to deliver work, to build stuff. At the end of a sequence of time, they'll catch up. They'll get in a room together and they'll discuss about the positive like ways of working, what went well. They discuss about. They also discuss about the areas of improvement. So notice it's not necessarily what went bad, it's just what can improve. And then based on that, what are the next steps? But you regularly check in. You check in regularly. You check in, as I'm saying, what went well, what can improve, what are the next steps. But if you cyclically keep on doing this over and over and over again, it's going to help you as well, even here as well, mentally as well. It's huge, absolutely huge. But it's very important to check in with yourself. It's very, very important. Like we all forget to do it, but why not? Why can't you do a retro with yourself or with your partner? Absolutely works, really does. Last one I could think of, off the top of my head, because I do it every single day at work, and in one way or another, I'm doing it in my life as well. I encourage you to try it as well. I'll have to probably do a breakout for this one, like another session for this one, OKRs. But OKRs essentially stands for objectives and key results. It's a goal setting approach where you set your goals, and maybe even using that roadmap idea we had earlier. So you set your goals for the year or wherever you want to do, whenever you want to do something, set a goal. But the most important thing as well is to think about the goal. How do you evaluate? How do you determine whether you had success or not? Sorry, um, and that's the results. that's that's the results. That's key results, right? So for every objective, you're going to have key results. What was the success criteria for those things? If you get into the habit of setting a goal and setting some data points, setting some ways to measure whether you did it or not, you can definitely go far as well, because you'll measure your progress as well, and actually be able to track how far and how well you're completing something. So OKRs is definitely something that works in product and can work with people as well. So much more. There's so much more, honestly, because there's so many parallels between product and people. Like we are our own product, technically. As cheesy as it can sound, we are our own product. But if you start first with the problems, as I said, each of these problems have resolutions. They have techniques that can come from product management, come from technology, come from different things as well. So what I will do is I will also attach to this video or whatever a PDF, a simple table that gives this mapping, sort of has the problems and then has the, what should we call it, solution, and has a definition for each one as well. Maybe it will become useful for you. But yeah, kind of like an overview sheet that has the mappings, initial mappings of the problem to solution to definition. I will share that. But also in the meantime, I'm going to use this channel to explore this idea a lot more. And yeah, thanks for joining. Would love for you to subscribe. Would love for you to connect. Love for you to share your thoughts on it as well. I've shared this with a couple friends of mine and colleagues of mine, and they see parallels. They really do as well. Because yeah, we all share these kind of problems, which we're showing on the screen right now. Anyway, speak soon, and I will definitely be back for more.